On today's show, we find out how we feel about the season now that it is over. Remember, you can listen on Apple and Spotify or watch on YouTube, as all links are in the description below. We'll also cover why DeMeco Ryans will be a great head coach and what has us excited about the draft and next season. We'll cover all this and more. You're inside the Johnny Dale Football Academy. Hello, Niner faithful, and welcome to the Johnny Dale Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game. I am a disappointed Adam Marino, joined by also a disappointed Johnny Dale. I would say I'm at 1% less depressed each day. I'm just 1%, maybe less. How are you feeling, man?
I was in a bad place on Sunday, and I even left our group chat. I couldn't handle it anymore. I just couldn't handle it. I was mostly upset with Philly fans because they drove me to a dark place, and I don't like being that person. I was talking with Wayne about it earlier today. If for those who don't know, I am at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama right now. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from where I live. So I drove down here today. It's Thursday on the 2nd is when we're recording this. It's in the evening. I have been at the Senior Bowl all day today, scouting out some potential 49ers. But I got together with the one and only Wayne Breezy, and we went out to dinner after the practice at the Senior Bowl, and we were talking about this, and because he was at the game in Philly, and he said it was horrible. Just absolutely horrible as far as how the Philly fans were acting. And I was not surprised at all, considering how my Twitter and my YouTube and everything was getting blown up by Philly fans. My DMs, I'm somebody who I've always kept my DMs open. That's just, I feel like if people want to connect with me, cool. I'll ignore you if it's really something stupid. But man, I had some vile stuff. Stuff that 30, 40 years ago would be NC-17 rated, coming through my DMs. I'm going, wow, this is a little extreme. It's a bit much. And so what I found myself doing was really more turning on the Philly fans and wanting and becoming like vengeful of like wanting them to feel the same pain that we were feeling. And I don't like being pushed to that dark place. I'm generally a positive guy. I it hasn't taken me as long to recover from this game as it did last year, because last year felt like, we got so close and we were so there and just kind of blew it on in so many ways. And that was so frustrating. And it felt like the team ran out of emotional gas at the end. This game felt like I'm not depressed. I'm frustrated. I feel wronged. You feel robbed. It's if you've ever had something stolen from you, you know what this feeling is like. I remember I was 19 and I had a bass stolen from me, a very nice bass stolen from me. And I remember the feeling of almost feeling violated. And that's almost what it felt like after the game, of that feeling of helplessness, that you didn't lose because you were worse. You lost because your opportunity was taken from you. And that was what was so frustrating. To feel like we should have had a chance in that game. But everybody knew the moment that Brock Purdy got hurt, it was done. The game was done. And it was literally just sitting there. You watched to the end, but it was a slow bludgeon to death. And that you knew you were helpless to stop. And so after a good night's sleep, I felt a little bit better about it. As far as, you look at it and you didn't feel like we were the worst team that day, even, or even, a team that was less talented. We were the team that was more hurt in the most crucial position. And so, that's where I came out of it with, feeling a little bit better. It's still hard to feel like you have to turn around and ramp back up for next season already, when the Super Bowl is still going on. You feel like you should be there. But this trip is helping me. It's helping me kind of recalibrate a little bit and get on the right track.
Be excited about football again, as you're now trading places with me. As far as those of you watching on YouTube can see, you are at the hotel as I was at Podfest and met some cool people and have some fun ideas to talk through with you off camera, honestly. And so should be exciting for our viewers and listeners as we try and just pump out content for you guys. As far as the game, I'll say one thing. I'm glad your DMs are open, because that's how we met. Because I slid in those DMs.
Oh, dear Lord.
And then the other thing I'll say about the game is, when you talk about Philly, it's no surprise, as on Instagram, I saw that 49er fans were getting egged just walking. If they're wearing Niners gear, Philly fans were just egging them for no reason. They're just walking down the street and eggs are just flying at them.
Who keeps eggs in that moment? Like, who does that? Who just drives? Yeah. Who drives around with eggs? Like, I will get you. Grown men keeping eggs what is wrong with Philadelphia? I mean, I could understand if it was cheesecakes or something, but eggs, you keep eggs for that reason. Something is wrong with you as a society, if that's where we're at. And not just one person. If it was one person, you'd say, well, that's crazy, Fred, and everybody knows it, and they just ignore him. But when it's so many people do this, what is happening?
It's bad when another, like Fred Warner's wife said she will never go back to Philadelphia.
Said that people were saying they were hoping their plane crashed on the way home. This is beyond. Okay, there's a certain point where some things might be hyperbole. Like somebody saying we have people everywhere, and they don't really have people literally everywhere. These are people saying, I wish your plane crashes, and you would think it's hyperbole, but these are people who carry eggs with them. I don't think they even know what the word hyperbole means.
It was unreal. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on Dallas fans, and we know how we feel about Dallas, but I want them to lose every time they step on the field, but a plane ride has nothing to do with that. I don't understand where that's coming from. So it's just it makes it a little it cuts deeper when you lose to that team, and it's taken from you in that regard, as far as it wasn't a fair 11 on 11. It wasn't, especially when they had that rollout pass and Kittle couldn't get to that block and Josh Johnson takes that very first hit. You're like, oh, good Lord, this is not going to work. That's before the concussion, mind you. I'm saying that first play where he drops back and all of a sudden it's a sack right in his face. You just could see, well, this ain't it. I don't know if Kyle called maybe the wrong play for that situation, or if, Kittle's one of the best blocking tight ends in the game. Why couldn't he get there in time? I don't want to give Philly credit. I just don't want to do it. That guy's pretty good, but after watching that play, it was just it's just downhill from there. Josh Johnson is not it. He's not it.
No. And I wish I could say I was here at the Senior Bowl and seeing some fantastic quarterback play, that of somebody that might slip into the 4th or 5th round that might be our third quarterback. Spoiler alert, at least from the national team, the quarterback play today was not encouraging. So there's some very raw seniors that are coming out right now. So those thinking, there might be some Brock Purdy magic in the draft this year. As from a late round guys, at least none of the guys I saw right now. It just, Brock Purdy looked miles and miles and miles ahead of where the guys are that I saw today. So, that's not terribly encouraging. And I talked to some people who'd been here earlier in the week, and they said the same thing. Literally said, yeah, the quarterback play from the national team this week has been trash. That was their exact words. So, because that was one thing I was looking for when I came down here, because there is the unknown of exactly how long Brock Purdy's healing is going to take. They're talking 6 months, and Kyle Shanahan did say in his press conference that was 6 months to full strength. That's not 6 months recovery and then build up from there. That it was more along the 3 month recovery and then 3 months of building back strength and being full go by early August, late July for training camp. He hasn't had the surgery yet, as far as I've seen. Again, I've been at the Senior Bowl all day, but I know he was looking at maybe some second opinions and things. But
so that's one thing I wanted to go through was I did watch the entire press conference with Shanahan and Lynch, and before we get to some of the players that you were texting me about at the Senior Bowl, I wanted to take a dive into the press conference and go over a couple things. The funniest thing was at the end, I think, where someone asked, what's the deal with the quarterbacks getting hurt, and should you change up, whatever. And it's like, it is kind of they've been going for about 24 minutes at that time, and it had been going well. Every question was answered with, it wasn't like it wasn't like us against them. It was the family getting together and talking. It was the vibe. And then all of a sudden at the end, this guy asked just a dumb question. Should you do this? And it's like,
yeah. If you missed it, the guy asked Kyle Shanahan, are you going to reevaluate how you're using your quarterbacks and reevaluate what you're doing offensively? Because now you've had 4 quarterback injuries this season. And one, you could tell through the whole press conference. Yeah. Well, how they got hurt, well, because he said, I'm sorry, Josh Johnson got a concussion, from falling on his back. Sorry that Brock Purdy got hurt on a drop back pass. That's an extremely common drop back pass. I'm sorry that Jimmy Garoppolo got his foot rolled up on a drop back pass, and we have a dual threat quarterback and he got hurt running the ball. And I get it. People say, well, you don't run Trey Lance up the middle, and you don't have Tyler Kroft blocking Hassan Reddick. In the end, these are football plays. What you're telling him is, now take your playbook and trim it down. Okay, well, we're getting quarterbacks hurt on drop back passes. We're getting quarterbacks hurt running the ball. And Kyle had the best response at the end of it. He says, well, we didn't get any quarterbacks hurt when we just handed the ball off the entire second half. Maybe we could look into that. From the just the idea that the only way that we can ensure that our quarterbacks don't get hurt is just if we hand the ball off every time. Yeah, we could try that. We won't win any games, but we could try it, and at least we won't get our quarterbacks hurt. That. Well, yeah, because he was like, well, I mean, I see how you could think that. I think that was in response to Grant's question about, do you see a common thread in anything or something that you need to change? And he said, well, you might think that, but then when you look at everything, common sense would say that's absolutely not true. Kyle looked very wore out. in that press conference. You could see that the emotional toll, that he was still recovering. He needed a break. He needs a break. I'm sure he's gonna, probably take next week off, and he needs it. You could see it. He's wore out. It's a long season, a draining season, and he just had one of the worst ways to end that season. It's like we just talked about. That is the worst way to end the season. And so, it was questions like that. It was almost as bad as the question that George Kittle got after the game, where he was asked, "How does it feel to lose the game the way you lost it?" And he's like, "What? To lose a championship game because I don't have a quarterback? It feels pretty." What do you? Now, if you actually think about it, it was a terrible question, but it was a great question because we're all going to talk about the answer, right? And so that's sometimes a great question, is one that elicits a great response. It may not be the smartest question, but it got to what everybody wanted him to say in that moment, because it was how we all felt. I was sitting there like, yeah, yep. So, but the season is now past. We had a great season. We really did. I know people don't like to hear that if you don't get a Super Bowl, it's a waste of a season. It's a missed opportunity. Yes, it was a missed opportunity. Yes, it sucks to not win the Super Bowl. There's 31 teams at the end of this year that will feel this way. We were a team that was blessed to see that there was only 4 teams playing the weekend we were playing. Everybody else was already on vacation. I don't see that as a waste. I see it that we had 20 games where we were able to watch our team play. Some fans were checked out of their teams after 12 games. We could be Rams fans. We went 98 days without losing. That is something that should always be remembered. Like, this season will be special. We got Christian McCaffrey. We saw what that could do with the offense. And whatever happens with this season, getting him and having him for an extended period of time is a huge win. We saw the defense play really well. We got young guys that we can build upon, and they can build upon their seasons, like Talanoa Hufanga, who showed up and is now a premier player in this league. That's a wonderful thing to look at. We saw Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks, very promising guards in positions that had been areas of concern for us for a couple of years. So that is a huge thing to build upon. We got some young running backs that we really like Ty Davis Price and Jordan Mason, and they're getting a year through and being able to take a step back and think and reevaluate and get ready for next season and do it with the knowledge of being an NFL player. Same with Drake Jackson. Kyle Shanahan talked about that a little bit, that it seemed like he had not prepared his body for the rigors of the long NFL season, and that he was just kind of trailing off there at the end. That he's learning what it means to be a pro for a long season. Remember, they're playing a lot more games than college is, and it takes guys time to adjust to that and what they have to do with their body week in and week out and be ready for that. It's a big deal. So there's a lot of good things to look forward to for this next season. We got some holes that we're going to have to fill. There's going to be, questions about free agency. I'm hoping, I haven't fully talked to Adam about this, so he's going to be a little bit surprised on there. I'm hoping to bring on a guy next week. His name is Jason Hurley. He is the cap guru for the 49ers. He knows the 49ers cap space down to the penny. And everybody's contract situations. He understands cap very, very well and what the options are going to be. And so we'll bring him on and we will take a look at what is the 49ers salary cap situation going into this season. What are our options in free agency? What are our options going forward? Where can we save money? What can we do? Do we need to save money? Will that be a thing? So we'll chat with Jason and we'll get some great insight to help educate us and make us smarter going into free agency with some level expectations. And I'm hoping this, after we have that conversation, then to put out some videos looking at some of our free agents, what they're, whether or not we could let them walk, whether we should try and keep them, what kind of evaluate their season and look at our class of free agents. And then, obviously I've been here at the Senior Bowl and going to come back with some good nuggets of some guys that are going to become real high on my list. I've already got a few that I saw today that really impressed me. Some not so much, but there's a few guys on there that really stood out today.
Let's go over some of those guys real quick. The one thing that I also wanted to throw in about the season was there's a vibe over the last few years that we're going to split with Arizona, we're going to sweep the Rams, and the Seahawks are going to sweep us. And this year, that's not what happened.
7-0 against the West, y'all.
Yep, and including
3-0 wins.
3-0 against the Seahawks, who typically sweep us. So that's another positive thing that happened this year that is definitely looked at as something to build on, because going into next season, there's no storyline that any team should beat us. There's no storyline that says that, because no one did last year in the division. And in the regular season, because of the roster, we should be favored in most games. So just moving forward, that's definitely something to be excited about. And so there's always that, All right, so the Senior Bowl, you were texting me a couple guys, and I'm going to let you try to pronounce the names because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, so and we'll probably try and take a deeper dive into a few of these guys as we go. Some of these guys, to be honest, I haven't been super familiar with the just plethora of college players that are out there. My videos usually take a long time to make. We were doing a pod. College football was something I was not deeply attuned into this season, but I've been trying to catch up and do my homework, and fingers crossed that I can get access to the college all 22 coaches tape and really start getting some good evaluations of some of these players. That's something I have in the works. We're going to see if it pans out. It may not, but sometimes all you got to do is ask, and ask the right person. But a guy that really stood out to me today was a guy named Sidney Brown from Illinois. He's a safety. Where he first stood out to me, he's got an NFL player's body. He looks like a grown man out there. So there's one aspect of it too. He showed really good coverage skills in one-on-ones as far as man coverage abilities. Where I see him is looking at that Jimmy Ward spot of that slot, that really Jimmy Ward was more of a safety playing the slot than he was a slot player who could play safety. And the value that brought our defense from the perspective, Sam Womack was a guy that really popped on everybody's radar during preseason for some of his coverage abilities, but there was a distinct drop-off in every category from Jimmy Ward to Womack. Now, how he progresses as the season goes, I don't know. What's going to happen with Tayshaun Gibson, we don't know. So safety is a spot of need, and Sidney Brown he was showing me that ability to play. You could put him at single high, you could put him in the back end, and he was very decisive and quick in diagnosing what he was seeing. Smooth hips, attacking good attack angles, and in man coverage, he was matching up very well against some of the tight ends. And even some of the receivers that were there, a lot better than what you would expect from a safety. And so he's a guy that they were moving him around a little bit. He was playing up high. He was playing box. And with his build, you could see it wasn't hard to see him as a box guy. He's built very much like Talanoa Hufanga. That's when you saw him out on the field, that's really what he reminded me of. and he just really impressed me today. In the individual drills, in the 7-on-7s, in the team portion. He's a guy to be looking forward to. Does he drop to us in the third round? I don't know. That's going to be a question that's going to be answered here from this week into the combine and from then. So that's one guy that I was on the offense that I was really excited about. He just really, really popped to me. Another guy was that we'll talk about a little bit more, is a tight end from Purdue. I'm really tired. I'm blanking on his name. We'll get that at a later episode. I left my list down in my truck. I'm so sorry, people. I am failing on the research end today. Just so you know, as we're recording this podcast, I've been up for about 17 hours right now. A little bit more than 17 hours. So that's why I'm a little slow on the names. And there was a lot of players to watch today. There's a lot of players here at the Senior Bowl, and it's been a good time. It's not quite as organized as I thought it was going to be for the media portion and everything. Not going to lie. I was texting Adam when I got here. I went to the wrong parking lot because there's literally 0 signs. I drove down here. They said park in the east parking lot. I'm like, what? Am I like some sort of basset, like hound dog? Just, there's east that way. Because you're driving through, it's on a college campus. And so it looks like all these parking lots that are going into like campus apartments, and the stadium is in the middle of all these campus apartments. And so I'm just driving till I found the stadium, and I found the stadium, and the only parking lot that looks like it's like the stadium parking lot was a different parking lot. And I pull in there, and there's a security guard sitting there with a little like pop out camping chair. Literally, he's on his phone, and he's just got security on his jacket. And I roll down my window. I'm like, hey man, is this where the media parking for the Senior Bowl is? And he looks at me, he's like, I don't know. I think so. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so do I park here? And he goes, yeah, just pull in and park to the right. And so I pull in, and I'm like in the parking lot where the NFL broadcast truck is. Okay. And they got their like big pop-up tent with an area for all of their employees and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking around, and I see people in their cars with, the credentialed lanyards and everything. And they get out, and they're grabbing all this camera equipment, and they're walking in. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think I'm not in the right spot. And the emails they tell you are like, they're like, go in gate 1, but they don't tell you where gate 1 is. And there's no signs that say this is where gate 1 is. And so I'm like, I'm obviously in the wrong parking lot. And so I go to move a parking lot. I go down this road, and they have the road blocked off. So I'm like, well, that's not the right way. And so I pull a U-E in this road. I pull into the next street because where the map that I had to get from the university's website after going to Google makes it look like I have to go down this road. And I pull in, and it's some apartment complex on campus, and students are staring at me like, that vehicle doesn't look normal. And so I'm like, this is the wrong way too. So I pull around, go back down the road that was closed, and sure enough, there's a parking lot there, and walk up, and there's literally a white plastic table with a bin with like all these envelopes that have everybody's credentials in them that I walked up, and there's a girl just sitting there like looking as depressed as can be because it's like 50 degrees, it's overcast, it's foggy, and it's like the last day of practice. And so I walk up, and she's like, can I help you? Are you here to get your credentials? And I was like, yeah. And then they go, here you go. They hand them to me, and I was like, they go, do you need to know anything? And I was like, where do I not go? Because and she was like, just don't go out on the field. Okay, thanks. Yeah, but we figured it out. It's been a good day. There's some defensive linemen we'll talk about in future episodes too. A couple defensive tackles that, you know, I took some videos of some of the team portions, so I can go back and look through them, see how they did. But because it was real hard to tell from the stands exactly what was going on with the D-line play. But there were guys that I was keeping an eye on during individual drills, and really kind of jumped out at me. So you know, those are guys that we'll talk about in some future episodes here, leading up into the combine, as guys that maybe you know you can keep an eye on and their performance at the combine, to see, are they risers or fallers? Are they people that are going to be 3rd round picks? Are they going to be 4th round picks? You know, possible high seconds. We got a lot of draft picks, you know, so it's guys that, I mean, maybe one of these guys is somebody that they say maybe we need to trade away some of these 3rd round picks to move up into the 2nd round. You never know. I don't see us just holding on to 11 picks and picking 11 guys, because there's not gonna be 11 guys that make this team. I don't think there's gonna be 5 guys that make this team. I think they need to distill their picks down a little bit, go for some quality over quantity in some areas, and you know, that's what I'm looking forward to. Is maybe they're going to see some of the same things I see in some of these guys. So that's where we're at. So today was the last practice. They're doing team meetings and meeting with NFL teams tomorrow. That is not open to the media. And then the game is on Saturday at 1:30. I will be there. Really trying to. I'm going to be looking a lot at the secondary, the linebacker level. I think this is going to be a good draft to try and pick up a replacement for Azeez Al-Shaair and Jimmy Ward. That's what I'm really looking at. You know, defensive line, you always need more depth there, especially on the interior, especially after the showing Kinlaw had against Philadelphia. But I really see Azeez Al-Shaair. I see him going with DeMeco Ryans in Houston. You know, DeMeco is a great coach. I think he's going to do a great job there in Houston. And his scheme is not simple. It's simple in the diversity, in how many different calls they have. They don't run 800 different types of calls, but they're very, very good at what they do, at what he does. And Azeez has been a very good player in his system. I think it's going to be very much akin to when Shanahan got here and he wanted to bring in guys that had been in the system before to help teach. That was one less person to teach the system to, and one other person that could teach the rest of the team in their positions. And I think as Azeez Al-Shaair will get that opportunity. He deserves that opportunity. He's been a very good player for us when he stepped in. I think so. I really see him as a guy that heads towards DeMeco Ryans.
And DeMeco Ryans taking a page from the defensive coordinator playbook to, you know, get a job in the head coaching realm, as the Jets were able to do that. And we wish DeMeco Ryans nothing but the best, unless the Texans are playing the Niners. And he's in a division where he has an opportunity to do well from the jump, because the team was the second worst team in all of football, and B, the division is also very crappy. So he has a chance to be decent right away. So definitely excited for him, as far as, you know, that's where he played. That's where he made a name for himself. He loves that area. It's going to be good for his family. I'm happy for him because he did so well with us that it's like you hate to see him go, but you still root for him as a Niner, right? And so I think that obviously he'll do better than what last year was, because literally you and I could have the Texans better than what they were last year. So obviously DeMeco will double whatever our wins would be, me and you. I think he'll double that. So
I hope he does better than that, because if it was me, I don't know, 2 times 0 is still 0. So
good math. That is good math. So yes, hats off to DeMeco Ryan for all that he's done for us, and just seeing his excitement there on the field when the defense made a play was contagious. Like you just, whenever the camera would go to him, I was almost ready for it. When there was a turnover, I'm like, oh, I bet the camera's going to go on DeMeco, and there it was, and it just got you excited. So hopefully the Texans can turn it around. We thank him for his service to us. That's going to do it for us today. Again, thank you, Niner faithful, for the support. We know the game didn't go the way that any of us wanted, but we are excited to just be here for you guys and put out content. And we got a long ways to go before we play again. So let's have some fun and bring you more content, get you more guests, and talk about things that excite us for the next year. So for Johnny Dell, I am Adam Marino. You can catch us next time. Take care of each other. And as always, go Niners.